Hey, welcome back. You know that feeling when you're walking through a museum and you turn a corner and you come face to face with something that just stops you cold? A piece of history that looks wrong, out of place. It doesn't fit the story you've been told. That's exactly what happened to archaeologists in a remote Chinese desert, but they weren't in a museum. They were standing at the edge of a grave, looking down at a body preserved for 4,000 years. A body with high cheekbones, a long nose, and strikingly blonde hair. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is the Curiosity Compendium. Today, we're unraveling one of the most fascinating archaeological puzzles of the last century, the story of the Tarim Mummies, the Bronze Age Europeans who made their home in the heart of ancient China. Let's set the scene. The Tarim Basin. It's in the Xinjiang region of western China, and it's one of the most inhospitable places on Earth. A vast, dry sea of sand dunes and gravel, ringed by mountains. It's the Taklamakan Desert, a name that famously translates to place of no return. And it was here, along the ancient Silk Road, that starting in the 1990s, Chinese and Western archaeologists began uncovering cemeteries. The dry, salty, freezing climate acted as a perfect preservative. They weren't just finding bones, they were finding people. Leather boots still on their feet, intricate woolen clothing, felt hats, and beside them, baskets of grain and tiny baby bottles. These were the Tarim mummies, and they dated from 1800 BCE to 200 CE. But their most shocking feature was their physical appearance. They looked, unmistakably, like people from the West, like Bronze Age Europeans. This is where the mystery begins, and where, for a long time, a lot of speculation ran wild. The immediate, visceral assumption was one of long-distance migration. A lost tribe. The idea was that a group from somewhere near the Black Sea or the Caucasus had undertaken an epic, unimaginable journey eastward, thousands of miles across the steppe, finally settling in this desolate Chinese desert. They became known as the Tocharians. This theory was tantalizing. It suggested a direct, physical link between East and West millennia before the Silk Road was officially established. It rewrote the map of early human movement. And for a while, it was the dominant story. But here's the thing about good science and deep storytelling. The most obvious narrative isn't always the true one. The plot thickened dramatically in 2021 when a massive, comprehensive genetic study was published in the journal Nature. Scientists sequenced the DNA of 13 of the earliest Tarim mummies from that core period around 2000 BCE, and the results were not what anyone expected. They weren't newcomers. They weren't recent migrants from the West. These blonde-haired, tall people were, genetically, a profound and ancient isolation. They had no DNA from the steppe herders of the time, or from early farmers in the Iranian plateau to the west. Instead, their ancestry was almost entirely from an ancient population known as the ancient North Eurasians, a group who themselves largely disappeared, but whose genetic legacy lives on in some Siberian and Native American populations. They were a relic, a surviving pocket of a very old world. Think of them not as travelers who arrived, but as a people who had always been there, a unique branch of humanity that had developed in place for thousands of years. Their European-like features were a shared, ancient heritage, not a sign of a recent trek from Europe. So, if they weren't fresh off the boat from the Caucasus, who were they? What was their life like? This, to me, is the most beautiful part of the story. The evidence paints a picture of a brilliantly resourceful and cosmopolitan culture, despite their isolation. They lived on the shores of an oasis, near what were once freshwater rivers that fed into the desert. They were not nomadic. They were settled. They built their boats not from wood, but from bundles of reeds, a technology seen in places like ancient Mesopotamia and Peru. They wore tailored woolen clothing, including beautiful, plaid-patterned leggings that wouldn't look out of place in Scotland. And they practiced agriculture. They grew wheat, barley, and millet. They raised sheep, goats, and cattle. And they had cheese. They made cheese, found in lumps on their necks and chests, likely placed there as provisions for the afterlife. This is the stunning synthesis. They were a distinct, local people who created a unique cultural fusion. The wheat and barley? Those are crops that originated in the West. The millet? That's a grain first domesticated in China to the East. The cheese-making technology? That likely came from the West as well. They weren't genetically mixed. but their culture was a vibrant tapestry woven from threads across Eurasia. They were, in essence, the world's first known cosmopolitan blend, a testament to how ideas and technologies can travel even when people don't in large numbers. Sitting here in New York, a city built by layers of migration, I find this incredibly profound. We so often think of ancient peoples as belonging to one place, one monolithic culture. We look at a face and assume a journey. But the Tarim Mummies teach us a more nuanced lesson. They challenge our instinct to categorize, to draw straight lines on a map. They were a people who looked one way, but whose genetic story was entirely their own, and whose daily life was a savvy adoption of the best ideas from all over their world. They remind me that identity is never just about where your ancestors came from. It's about the choices you make, the technologies you adopt, the community you build, and the place you call home. The Tarim Mummies are a silent rebuke to simple narratives. They are not evidence of a lost white tribe in China, as some have wrongly tried to claim. They are evidence of something much more interesting: the incredible diversity and complexity of the ancient human world. They show us that 4,000 years ago, in one of the harshest environments on the planet, a resilient community thrived by being both fiercely local and remarkably connected. They were, truly, global citizens of the Bronze Age. So the next time you feel like you have a story figured out, remember the Taklamakan Desert. Remember the people with the felt hats and the plaid leggings and the provisions of cheese. Remember that history is full of surprises waiting in the sand, ready to make us rethink everything we thought we knew. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a curious friend. For more stories that explore the fascinating edges of our world, subscribe to the Curiosity Compendium wherever you get your podcasts. This show is produced by Light Knot Studios. You can find more of our work and support independent storytelling by visiting lightknotstudios.com. That's lightknotstudios.com. Until next time, stay curious.